The Silent Awakening. The emergency beacon cut through the silence of deep space like a blade through silk. Commander Sarah Chen stood motionless on the bridge of the Shadowbane, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the burning remains of New Geneva colony. 3 million souls reduced to cosmic dust in mere hours. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Torres called from the communication station, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "We're receiving transmission logs from the colony's final moments." The Zephyrian fleet didn't even attempt negotiations. They just opened fire. Sarah's jaw clenched. 20 years of so-called peace with the Galactic Coalition had crumbled in a single devastating attack. The Coalition, led by the arrogant Zephyrians and their reptilian allies, had grown tired of humanity's rapid expansion. Earth's colonies were spreading too fast, developing too quickly, asking too many uncomfortable questions about Coalition policies. "Status of the Dark Fleet?" Sarah asked, her voice carrying the weight of command earned through decades of service. "All vessels report ready, Commander," replied her tactical officer, Major Reynolds. 15 dark matter cruisers, 8 heavy destroyers, and the flagship Shadowbane. Every ship equipped with the new quantum drives and reality distortion weapons. Sarah nodded grimly. For 15 years, Earth had been preparing for this moment. While the Coalition believed humanity was bound by the Treaty of Centauri, prohibited from developing advanced military technology, human scientists had been working in absolute secrecy. Hidden bases in asteroid fields, research stations disguised as mining operations, brilliant minds pulled from every corner of human space to work on Project Dark Star. The breakthrough had come 5 years ago when Dr. Elena Vasquez successfully harnessed dark matter for propulsion and weaponry. Ships that could bend space-time itself, weapons that struck through dimensions the Coalition couldn't even detect. Humanity had learned the hard way that in a galaxy ruled by strength, peace was just the pause between conflicts. "Commander," came a new voice from behind her. Admiral Marcus Webb, architect of Earth's secret fleet, stepped onto the bridge. His weathered face bore the scars of the border wars, where he'd first seen Coalition cruelty firsthand. "Intel confirms the Zephyrians are mobilizing their entire Third Fleet. They're planning to hit Earth's outer colonies next." "Let them come," Sarah replied coldly. "It's time the galaxy learned what humanity can truly accomplish when pushed too far." The Shadowbane was a marvel of human engineering. 3 kilometers of sleek, angular metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Her dark matter core hummed with barely contained power, while her hull bristled with weapons that existed partially outside normal space. She was invisible to Coalition sensors, faster than their fastest interceptors, and armed with firepower that could crack moons. "All ships report ready for dimensional shift," Torres announced. "Dark matter cores at full capacity." Sarah moved to her command chair, feeling the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her shoulders. Every decision from this moment forward would echo through history. The Coalition had made their choice when they destroyed New Geneva. Now humanity would make theirs. "Open a channel to all fleet commanders," she ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing the faces of her ship captains. Captain Rodriguez of the Nightfall, Captain Okafor of the Voidwalker, Captain Petrov of the Star Reaper. Each one handpicked for this moment, each one burning with the same cold fury that drove Sarah forward. "Today, the Coalition learned that humanity will not be caged," Sarah began, her voice carrying across 15 ships and 30,000 crew members. "They believed we were weak, bound by treaties and limited by their technology. They were wrong on every count." She paused, letting her words sink in. New Geneva was home to 3 million innocent people. Men, women, children who wanted nothing more than to build a life among the stars. The Coalition erased them without warning, without mercy, without justification. They did this because they fear us. They fear what we represent. On the tactical display, red dots marked Coalition fleet positions throughout the sector. Hundreds of ships, thousands of years of technological advancement, backed by the combined might of 12 alien species. Against them stood 15 human vessels that officially didn't exist. "We represent the future," Sarah continued. "A future where strength comes not from oppression, but from unity. Not from fear, but from hope. Today, we show them the price of attacking innocent humans. Today, we show them what happens when Earth's children decide to fight back." The energy readings from the dark matter cores began to spike. Reality itself seemed to waver around the fleet as exotic particles danced along their hulls. This was technology the Coalition couldn't comprehend, built from principles they'd never discovered. "Fleet commanders, you have your targets. Remember, we're not conquerors. We're liberators. Every human colony under Coalition occupation, every research station they've seized, every trade route they've blockaded. We take it all back. But we do it clean. Military targets only. We're not like them." A chorus of acknowledgments came back from her captains. These weren't just military officers. They were the children and grandchildren of Earth's first interstellar colonists. They'd grown up under Coalition rule, watched their parents bow to alien bureaucrats, seen human innovation stifled by xenophobic regulations. "Ma'am," Reynolds called out. "Long-range sensors detect the Zephyrian Third Fleet moving toward the Proxima system. 47 ships, including their flagship, the Eternal Dominion." Sarah's eyes hardened. The Eternal Dominion was commanded by War Admiral Vextan, the butcher who'd ordered the destruction of New Geneva, a creature who viewed humans as barely evolved primitives, useful only as laborers and test subjects. "Perfect," she said quietly. "Set course for Proxima. All ships, prepare for dimensional shift." The dark matter drives engaged with a sound like reality tearing. Space folded around the fleet as they slipped between dimensions, traveling through regions of existence the Coalition had never even theorized about. In normal space, they simply vanished without a trace. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, War Admiral Vextan stood 8 feet tall on 4 powerful legs, his scaled hide bearing the ritual scars of 100 victories. His species, the Zephyrians, had ruled their corner of the galaxy for millennia through superior technology and ruthless efficiency. Humans were just the latest species to learn their place. "Status report," he commanded in his native tongue, translated by his ship's eye. "All fleet elements are in position," replied his tactical coordinator. "Human settlements in the Proxima system show no signs of military buildup. Their pathetic defense grid won't delay us by even an hour." Vextan's predatory smile revealed rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Good. The destruction of New Geneva was just the beginning. Once we've eliminated their outer colonies, Earth itself will surrender." The Coalition Council grows tired of human expansion. What he couldn't see, what his sensors couldn't detect, was the dark fleet materializing just outside Proxima's gravity well. Sarah's ships emerged from dimensional space like sharks rising from the depths, their exotic hulls rendering them invisible to Zephyrian technology. "Target acquired," Reynolds reported. "Coalition Third Fleet in standard formation, approaching Proxima colony." Sarah stood, her hand resting on the quantum firing controls. 15 years of preparation had led to this moment. 15 years of sacrifice, innovation, and absolute secrecy. The Coalition thought they were hunting sheep. They were about to discover they'd cornered wolves. "All ships, weapons hot," she commanded. "Remember, we're not just fighting for revenge. We're fighting for the right to exist as free humans in this galaxy. Today, that fight begins." The Shadowbane's reality distortion cannons charged with a harmonic whine that seemed to come from somewhere beyond normal space. Around her, 14 other ships prepared to announce humanity's return to galactic warfare. The age of submission was over. The age of the Dark Fleet had begun. The reckoning storm. The first shot came without warning, without detection, and without mercy. The Zephyrian cruiser Talon's Edge simply ceased to exist. One moment it was advancing on Proxima colony with weapons charged. The next it was a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated plasma. The reality distortion beam had struck it across multiple dimensions simultaneously, tearing apart not just its hull, but the fundamental bonds holding its atoms together. What in the void was that? War Admiral Vexten roared, his scaled fists slamming against his command throne. Around the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, his crew scrambled to understand what had just happened. "Unknown contact, sir," his sensor operator stammered. "The attack came from everywhere and nowhere. Our sensors show nothing." That was when the rest of Sarah's dark fleet revealed themselves. 15 ships materialized from dimensional space like death itself taking form. The Shadowbane led the charge, her angular black hull seeming to devour the starlight around her. Behind her came the Nightfall, Voidwalker, Star Reaper, and a dozen other vessels that existed in the nightmares of Coalition strategists. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet." Her voice cut across all Coalition frequencies with crystal clarity. "You have attacked innocent human civilians. You have violated the most basic laws of civilized warfare. Today, you face the consequences." Vexten's blood ran cold. Terran Defense Fleet. That was impossible. The humans had no military fleet. The Treaty of Centauri had specifically prohibited them from developing advanced warships. Their most powerful vessels were barely armed cargo haulers. "Open fire," he bellowed. "All ships, concentrate fire on the lead vessel." The Third Fleet responded instantly. 46 ships unleashed a coordinated barrage that could have reduced a small moon to rubble. Plasma cannons, ion beams, fusion torpedoes, and exotic particle weapons all converged on the Shadowbane's position. The weapons passed right through her. Sarah smiled grimly as the Coalition barrage harmlessly intersected with her ship's dimensional shields. The technology was beyond anything the aliens could comprehend. The Shadowbane existed partially outside normal spacetime, making conventional weapons utterly useless against her. "Return fire," she commanded. "All ships, full assault pattern Delta." The Dark Fleet responded with devastating precision. Reality distortion beams lanced out from multiple angles, each shot calculated to maximize damage, while minimizing the risk to human colonies in the system. 3 more Zephyrian ships vanished in brilliant flashes of annihilation. A Coalition heavy cruiser found itself cut in half by a quantum shear weapon that sliced through its hull like it was made of paper. "Impossible," Vexten snarled. "Humans don't have this technology. They're barely spacefaring." His tactical coordinator was frantically working at his console, trying to get any kind of sensor lock on the attacking ships. "Sir, these vessels are using principles of physics we don't understand. They're attacking from multiple dimensions simultaneously." That was exactly right. Earth's scientists had spent years studying the fundamental nature of reality itself. While the Coalition had focused on bigger guns and stronger shields, humanity had learned to step outside the rules of conventional warfare entirely. Their ships could exist in parallel dimensions, their weapons could strike targets through folded space, and their defenses operated on levels of reality the enemy couldn't even perceive. Captain Rodriguez of the Nightfall targeted a cluster of Coalition destroyers with her ship's exotic matter projectors. The weapons fired bursts of transformed matter that existed in a state of quantum superposition, allowing them to pass through shields and armor as if they weren't there. When the exotic matter reverted to normal space inside the enemy hulls, the results were catastrophic. 4 destroyers died in synchronized explosions, their fusion cores destabilizing as exotic matter interfered with their containment fields. The remaining Coalition ships began to panic, breaking formation as their commanders realized they were facing something completely beyond their experience. "Sir," the communications officer aboard the Eternal Dominion called out, his voice shaking. "We're receiving surrender requests from 7 ships. The Talon of Fury is requesting immediate evacuation assistance." Vexten's rage was magnificent to behold. His species had conquered dozens of worlds through technological superiority and ruthless tactics. The idea that primitive humans could challenge them was unthinkable. The reality that they were losing was unbearable. "No retreat," he commanded. "Signal the reserve squadrons. Call in the 4th and 7th fleets. I don't care if we have to glass every human world in the sector." But Sarah had anticipated this response. Human intelligence networks had been mapping coalition fleet positions for months. She knew exactly where their reinforcements were stationed, and more importantly, she knew how long it would take them to arrive. "Major Reynolds," she called to her tactical officer. "Initiate Phase 2. Signal the secondary strike groups." Across human space, sleeper cells of dark ships received their activation codes. Hidden bases that had been masquerading as asteroid mining operations suddenly revealed themselves as fully operational military installations. The Coalition had been watching Earth's visible fleet, never suspecting that humanity's real naval power was scattered throughout the outer systems in unmarked facilities. Captain Elena Vasquez, daughter of the scientist who'd first harnessed dark matter, commanded the strike group hitting the Coalition's main supply depot at Kepler Station. Her ship, the Quantum Storm, phased directly through the station's shields and materialized inside the main hangar bay. "This is Captain Vasquez to Kepler Station Control," she broadcast. "You have 30 seconds to evacuate all personnel. We're here for your military supplies, not your lives." The station's Altarian commander, a crystalline being named Kethvar, watched in horror as human soldiers in advanced combat suits began systematically destroying Coalition weapons stockpiles. These weren't the desperate raiders he'd expected. They moved with professional precision, targeting only military assets while carefully avoiding civilian areas. How are they doing this? He wondered aloud to his security chief. "Our shields should be impenetrable." "They're not breaking through the shields, sir," came the terrified reply. "They're ignoring them completely. Those ships exist partially outside normal space." Back at Proxima, the battle was turning into a complete rout. The Coalition's Third Fleet, once the pride of the Zephyrian military, was being systematically dismantled by 15 ships that shouldn't have existed. Vextan watched his forces crumble, his tactical displays showing red icons disappearing one by one. "Sir," his navigation officer reported, "we're detecting massive energy signatures approaching from the outer system. At least 30 more unknown contacts." Sarah's reinforcements had arrived. Captain Liu of the Dark Matter Squadron brought 12 heavy assault ships, fresh from the secret shipyards of the asteroid belt. Captain Thompson's stealth wing materialized from subspace with surgical precision, their ships designed for rapid strike operations against hardened targets. "War Admiral," Sarah's voice cut through the chaos on the Eternal Dominion's bridge. "You have lost this battle. Order your remaining ships to withdraw, and no more Coalition personnel need to die today." Vextan's pride warred with his survival instincts. His species had never retreated from human forces. The Shane would follow him for the rest of his life, but the alternative was watching his entire fleet get destroyed by weapons he couldn't even understand. "Never," he roared. "Zephyrians do not flee from primitives." "Then you'll die like the rest," Sarah replied coldly. "Shadowbane to all Coalition vessels. Any ship that does not withdraw in the next 60 seconds will be destroyed. This is your only warning." Some of the Coalition captains were smarter than their commander. 12 ships immediately began jumping to hyperspace, their crews having no desire to die for Zephyrian pride. Others hesitated, torn between loyalty and self-preservation. The Eternal Dominion held its position, Vextan's hatred burning brighter than his ship's fusion cores. Sarah gave him exactly 60 seconds. Then the Shadowbane opened fire with her full arsenal. The reality distortion beam that struck the Eternal Dominion was unlike anything that had been fired before. It didn't just tear through the ship's hull or overload its systems. It fundamentally altered the nature of matter within a localized area, transforming solid steel into exotic particles that couldn't exist in normal space. The mighty dreadnought, symbol of Zephyrian power for over a century, simply unraveled at the subatomic level. Vextan had just enough time to register what was happening before he and his ship ceased to exist in any meaningful sense. The remaining Coalition vessels fled. As the last enemy ship vanished into hyperspace, Sarah allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The first phase of humanity's return to galactic prominence was complete, but she knew this was just the beginning. "Commander," Lieutenant Torres called from the communication station. "We're receiving messages from human colonies throughout the sector. Word is spreading fast. They want to know if Earth is finally fighting back." Sarah nodded slowly. "Open a channel. All human settlements, all colonies, all ships in space. It's time they knew the truth." Her image appeared on screens throughout human space, on mining platforms and research stations, in colonial capitals and frontier outposts. Humans stopped what they were doing to listen. "People of Earth and her colonies," Sarah began, "today marks the end of our subjugation. For too long, we have bowed to alien masters who saw us as nothing more than useful primitives. They told us we were too young, too violent, too unpredictable to be trusted with advanced technology." She paused, letting the weight of recent events settle in. They were wrong. While they grew complacent in their superiority, we evolved. We learned. We built weapons and ships that exist beyond their understanding. Today, we prove that humanity will never again kneel to those who would oppress us. Across human space, crowds gathered around public screens. Children who had grown up under coalition oversight listened as a human military commander spoke of freedom and strength. Parents who had watched their dreams crushed by alien bureaucrats felt hope kindle in their hearts for the first time in decades. "The age of submission is over," Sarah continued. "We are no longer subjects of the Galactic Coalition. We are citizens of a free and independent humanity, and we will defend that freedom with every breath in our bodies." The message reached Earth 12 hours later. In the halls of the Terran Assembly, where human leaders had spent decades negotiating for scraps of autonomy, representatives stood in stunned silence as they watched footage of coalition fleets fleeing from human warships. Secretary General Martinez, who had built his career on compromise and accommodation, found himself speechless. The careful balance of diplomacy he'd maintained for 20 years had just been shattered by ships that weren't supposed to exist. But in the streets of Earth's great cities, people celebrated. For the first time since first contact with alien civilizations, humanity had shown its teeth. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. Aboard the Shadowbane, Sarah stood before the massive observation deck, watching the stars wheel overhead. Somewhere out there, coalition fleets were regrouping. Alien leaders were meeting in emergency session. The rules of galactic politics were being rewritten in real time. "Orders, Commander," Major Reynolds asked quietly. Sarah smiled, and it was not a gentle expression. "Signal the fleet. We're going home to Earth. It's time the galaxy learned what happens when humanity decides to stop hiding." The Dark Fleet began its journey back to human space, leaving behind the wreckage of coalition arrogance and the dawn of a new age. In the depths of space, reality itself seemed to bend around their passage, as if the universe itself recognized that something fundamental had changed. Humanity was no longer asking for permission to exist among the stars. They were taking their place by right of strength, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will to be free. The galaxy would adapt to their presence, or it would learn to fear the darkness between stars where Earth's children now ruled supreme.